Welcome to another episode of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week on this live from San Diego, Gail Falk with all the communities still doing the news, doing this live from Taiwan, Sean Newton, doing this live from Jersey. Aisha, what's going on, ladies and gents?
Hey, good evening. Nice to be back. We got a lot to talk about.
What up?
Absolutely. After being off last week, a bit under the weather, still not 100%, but I'm back. For those who are new to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the Pound for Pound Boxing Report is a live YouTube show / podcast / blog that discusses all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. If you want to find information on all things Pound for Pound Boxing Report, just go to the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com is the link. You look to the right of the page, you can find the link to find us all over the internet, all over the interwebs, all over social media. The link for the podcast page on Podomatic, the Facebook page, the Tumblr page, the 2G Plus pages, the Twitter handle, where to find us on YouTube, where to find us on Pinterest, the RSS feed if you want to subscribe there, where you can find us on Stitcher Radio. We're also on Flipboard Magazine. Got a link to find us on Flipboard Magazine as well. And lastly, the link where you can, the email address also, p4pboxingreport@rpt@gmail.com. And lastly, a link to where to donate your account. DonateYourAccount.com/p4pboxingreport is the link to donate your account. Be a friend, be a pal, be a buddy. Donate your Twitter account, and what happens is any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page, your Twitter handle will automatically be able to retweet any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page. With that being said, let's get the show started. A lot of boxing this weekend. Well, this week actually on Friday and Saturday. So we're going to do a recap of that. The headline, of course, is Floyd Mayweather and supposedly the last fight of his career, getting a 12-round decision over Andre Berto last Saturday night in Las Vegas. 120-108 on one card, 118-110 on the other card. On the second card, 117-111 on the third. The fight pretty much turned out what I thought it would be. Mayweather winning easy. Played around a little bit too much for my liking. I thought he could have put more damage on Berto. Berto, he fought hard, but it was basically a no hope for him. He had no shot, in my opinion. Mayweather was just an all-around better fighter. I'll go to you this first, Isha. Your thoughts on the fight? Period. What did you think of the fight? The way Mayweather performed, the way Berto fought. Just your overall assessment of what went down.
Well, Berto did what Berto does. Absolutely nothing. But the overall fight, I actually enjoyed it for the simple fact that it was a delight to see Floyd actually having fun and enjoying himself in the ring. And you can see that that's all he was doing. Obviously, he could have did a little bit more to to fight against Berto, but it was his last fight. He was like, fuck it, I'm going to have some fun. And that's what he did. How often do you see the boy smile in the ring? Never. He was smiling. He was joking around. He's like, fuck it, everybody's going to hate me regardless. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's what he did. I enjoyed it. I got a few chuckles out of it. The fact that Berto was actually hurt by Floyd Mayweather in that fight was just hysterical to me. But other than that, I enjoyed the fight. I don't have any really negatives to say about it other than it was his last fight. What did we all expect?
I'll go to you, Gail, then you can follow up shot and give your thought. You can give your thoughts on the fight. I'm gonna go with you, Gail, first, since you was there covering the fight. Thoughts on the fight, the crowd, the atmosphere itself. What did you see?
Very interesting. This was not the normal atmosphere for a Mayweather fight. Sure, all the usual trappings were there. It was plastered all over town. The minute you drive into Las Vegas when Mayweather's got a fight on, it is on every side of the MGM Grand and its other sister properties. There are billboards as you come into town. If you walk in that hotel, it's plastered on every flat surface that you can possibly put something on. So usually it's pretty big deal. And the town fills up, the rooms fill up, people are excited, people are talking about it. You see people wearing their swag, and they've got their T-shirts, with their favorite's name or some other fight they've been to. There's buzz. There was markedly less of that. It was a very subdued atmosphere, considering, at least in theory, that this is Floyd Mayweather's last fight. It was very strange to see. There were a lot of rumors about ticket sales being very slow, although the box office line that I saw on Saturday morning was pretty substantial. Were they selling discounted tickets? Were people kind of waking up and deciding what the hell I'll go at the last minute? It's hard to say. There were also rumors that the upper deck seats, which the highest priced upper deck seats were $300. They were split, $150 and $300 in the upper half of the arena. There were rumors that everyone that had a $300 seat was upgraded to a $1,000 seat, which meant they were brought downstairs, and then anything else they sold, they were filling in up there. Don't know if that's true or not. The arena was configured for 14,500. The announced attendance was 13,900, I believe, something like that. By the time the fight got started, once the national anthems had been sung and all the announcements had been made, yeah, I believe there were that many people in the seats. It was full. It appeared full. It was fairly quiet. It was nowhere near the atmosphere of the Santa Cruz Maras fight, which I attended a couple weeks ago. Not even close. There was just not that buzz, that snap. There weren't quite the number of celebrities around. It was a very strange way for Floyd to go out. He performed exactly as we predicted. Berto performed exactly as we predicted. The copy box numbers, or the show stat numbers, were so far apart it was crazy. Floyd's connect percentage was 57% overall. That's an astonishing number. Berto's overall was something like 13%. It was a complete embarrassment. But yeah, he picked up his check, and that's what he was there to do. And he did his job. He went along with the program. At the post-fight news conference, Berto seemed, very at peace with himself, kind of it is what it is attitude. He frequently used the word crafty to describe Mayweather over and over, that he was crafty, that he couldn't get at him because he was crafty. And that's not a bad way to describe how Mayweather is and how the fight went down. Mayweather showed us all the tools he's developed over the years, and it was exactly as we expect. Now, anyone who believes that's his last fight, that he would cap his career and consider himself the best ever, greatest of all time, after that fight, nobody believes it except Floyd. And I'm not sure Floyd even believes it. Floyd's talking a good game, but I don't think anybody buys it, not in a million years. And one thing that is apparent up close with Floyd, he's tired. He's tired. He wants a break. And I get that. Honestly, I think that no disgrace to him. Nothing wrong with him just flat out being worn out. I think this Showtime contract weighed on him. He's glad to have it in his rearview mirror, although he and Steven Espinoza of Showtime Sports and Leonard Ellerby were all very, huggy-kissy bromance at the post-fight news conference. But he wants a break. And if this is the fiction in his mind, the story he's weaving for himself, that, I'm going to retire so that mentally he's really taking a break, I don't have any problem with that. But I don't believe for a second this is his last fight. The MGM complex is building another arena in Las Vegas. For those of you who know Las Vegas, it's in a big piece of dirt behind the New York Hotel to the west. It'll seat 22,000, which will be the biggest permanent arena in Las Vegas. And who better to initiate it when it opens than Floyd? And that'll be sometime next year. So we'll see what happens. I think he'll be back.
They put Chavez Jr. in there.
Oh my God.
No, no. With my bad sinuses and all, no.
We'll see. I mean, Amir Khan still thinks he's got his shot at him. Amir's, right with the rest of the crowd, all of us thinking this isn't over yet. This is just not over. There's a sizable contingent of people that think that we're going to see a Pacquiao rematch once Pacquiao heals and has a tune-up fight. Well, okay, there are exhibits shown here. Sean, you think that's what's going to happen?
Yeah, I just finance, right? Money makes sense. Even though I don't know why anybody would really want to see it, because the first one was sort of underwhelming. But you can see that financially it's still the biggest fight for Floyd, unless GGG beats Canelo and Floyd wants to fight a 160 guy at 154. But I don't see that happening. So
I think we're going to see Andre Ward fight Golovkin long before we see Mayweather fight him. And that's way off in the distance. I think the clock is going to run out before that even becomes something Floyd has to confront.
For sure. Yeah. But, I mean, it makes the most sense. I mean, depending what Manny does in his next fight back, I mean, I think he needs to at least have another fight to look like he's a challenge.
Yeah. And I think, Mayweather is so woven into the business fabric of Las Vegas in general, and within the MGM entertainment complex in particular. It is amazing how much of his brand you see all over that hotel. There are gift shops dedicated to nothing but Mayweather merchandise. Multiple footprints all over that hotel. If they were to scrub that place of him, there'd be a lot of bare space in there. They don't easily want to see him right off into the sunset. We'll see what happens.
That's like Cotto and Canelo don't want to fight there.
Well, no kidding. Mayweather, if you are on that property, Floyd is in your face. In your face. And they're making so much money selling his swag. We were all handed swag as members of the media. We all got a goodie bag. I'm going to just show you. Well, we have our little Showtime water bottle. They were selling the snot out of the various baseball hats. This is just one of them. These suckers were $48, and they were.
Man.
I mean, you kidding me? Not a chance. T-shirt,
I like that hat.
Not bad. You got your.
Not for no $48 though.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't spend $48 on it, but I'm also a hat person, so I don't know.
T-shirts were all $40. You want anything upper end? You want a hoodie? $75, $80, and they were selling. Believe me. One of the other interesting items, which I actually picked up just for to show you, they were selling even a. Let's make sure I don't get too much. That's a custom, non-negotiable casino chip with Floyd's picture on it, and then got the little limited edition. Now it's got $100 on the face of it, but they make it very clear that this is not a playable item, and they did not sell them for $100. I think these were $20, and those were selling. So Floyd, when you talk about Floyd's money machine, absolutely insane. If there is any chance they can drag out his shelf life, they're going to do it.
You mentioned the thing about retirement. I'm going to get Isha to answer this question as well. I'm going to be a bit contrarian here. Will Floyd fight again? Probably, but I don't want him to for a few reasons. Number one, to your point, I think he's tired physically. I just don't know how long his body will hold up. That's just me. I just think he's tired physically and mentally as well. Two, for me, when I look at Floyd and this division, there are a lot of good fighters at 147 pounds and even 140 pounds. You got your Khans, you got your Kell Brooks, you got your Thurmans, you got your Porters, you got your Errol Spence, other fighters alike. They have been sitting idle, basically waiting for the Mayweather money train to come their way. And as a result, they haven't been fighting. They have been fighting, number one, and two, they haven't been fighting each other. So he's kind of held the division up for me. And why not Floyd just call it a day, stick to his guns and say he's done, so all these other good fighters can get in the ring. So A, we can see them. B, they can fight each other and see who's the next king at 147 pounds is. And C, we can, from this group of fighters, we can see who's the next potential star is. That's my point. Sure, Mayweather's around, but the problem is that all the attention's been focused on him when there are other fighters out there who are on the upswing, who are damn good and deserve attention, but they're not getting it because Mayweather's that big guy that everybody got the spotlight on. And for me, let these other guys, let them have their shot. Let them have their time to shine. And I'll go to you on this one, Isha. Your thoughts on this thing about the question about Mayweather, will he retire? Will he stick to his retirement, or will he fight on?
I don't know whether or not he's gonna fight or not. Again, it really doesn't matter to me if he does or not. If he does, it's boxing I get to watch. If he doesn't, he's had a great run of the mill. As far as all of these other boxers, I mean, we speak as if, you know, Floyd is like, oh, keep the sunlight on me, oh, this, that, and the other. They can sign other contracts to fight other people. No one's holding a gun to their head for them to, you know, sit idle and wait for something that's possibly not going to happen. Get the fuck out there and fight. Fight other people. I mean, what's the point of sitting there waiting for something that you know probably is not going to happen?
You're right, but the problem
is you can't hold that to, you know, as it being Floyd's fault. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He's out there, you know, he's working. You know, he has to provide for his family just like they have to provide for their family. If they choose to sit idle and wait for something, a fucking breeze in the a leaf in the wind, then that's on them.
Well, I'm not saying it's totally Floyd's fault. A lot of it is their fault too. But you say that and you have a point. But up until this fight with Berto was signed, what was Thurman doing? Talking about a fight with Mayweather. What was Khan doing? But that's what they're supposed to do. He's the top guy. But they should have the sense to know that he's not going to fight those guys. He's not going to fight all those guys. True. But with saying that they want to fight him, they should be cementing their skills in fighting other people. You can still call every time you whoop somebody's ass. Get in the camera and call Mayweather out. Then now go and beat somebody else's ass. Get in the camera and call him out again. Don't just fucking like Khan. That guy's a fucking idiot. You're sitting there letting the best of your years rust away, waiting for a Floyd fight. Talking about, oh, he's afraid to fight me. He's afraid to fight me. Well, yeah, you have Kell Brook calling you out every chance he gets. You have other people in your division calling you out. Go fucking fight them. No, he wants to sit around idle and wait. That's stupid.
Well, Khan is afraid that Brook will beat him, and if Brook beats him, he has no shot at Mayweather. So he won't risk it.
But clearly he doesn't have a shot at Mayweather now unless he would have already fought him. Mayweather's already stated that, hey, you haven't even avenged your loss to Danny Garcia. Why the fuck am I going to fight you for? You don't deserve it.
But then he also was calling Khan one of his main opponents before he ended up fighting Maidana 2 times in a row. So Floyd made him relevant.
Man, that was just a jerkish chain, man. He fucking laughed at him after that.
But Floyd made him relevant. So it's on Floyd.
That's true. I'll give you that. That is true.
Yeah, you know, and any fighter in that division who thinks they've got a shot, you know, is going to keep their dance card open as long as they can. The problem is, eventually, everybody else matches up, you know, and to keep the, you know, dance game analogy going, it's musical chairs. Everybody else ends up with a seat, and Khan is standing there with nowhere to go. You know, and eventually that is going to happen. So does he just take does he take the journeyman fight? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later in the case of Vasyl Lomachenko, for example. Do you just take a fight to stay busy? He's decided he's not going to do that.
Well, Khan's name is too big to take a stay busy fight again. His stay busy fight was against fucking Algeria, where he struggled.
I think that was a little more than a stay busy fight. You know,
That's what he called it. That's what they called it. They called it a stay busy fight. I'm just going off of what it was called. I think I was going for Algeria in that fight, but obviously I don't like Khan. But I thought that Algeria actually had a chance to beat Khan.
They did. Yeah.
Let's get your quick assessment of Sean before we move on.
About the fight?
Well, about Mayweather's future and what we've been talking about and whether he should retire or keep fighting and why I think he should retire and whatnot, and how it's holding all the other fighters up, in my opinion, from fighting each other and making their own way.
The whole problem about this whole fucking circus is that. If you were Floyd, would you give up all the cash? Of course you wouldn't. So is this his last fight? Of course it isn't. It was like Gail was saying. He signed this big contract, 6 fights in Showtime. And when this was offered, everyone was saying, there's no way Floyd's going to finish all 6 of these fights because he's just not been that active for years. He's been fighting like once a year. So nobody could imagine that for 3 years in a row he would take 2 fights. And like both of you were saying, I mean, it's taken some wear and tear out of him, hence IVs. But nonetheless, you can see that he's getting older, and this has been more active than he had been prior to this, and that now he's just going to sort of take a break, take a rest, and just sort of see what options open, and then he's going to jump on the option to get in there and make big money to get the 50th win, because then all this talk about being tied with Marciano would also be gone, because now he would have this record, even though Ricardo Lopez has the record at 51. But this would be what, all his fans and he clamors for, to have this record that Marciano doesn't have, that Barry Holmes wasn't able to break, even though it's a heavyweight record. But nonetheless, it would be another thing that he could brag about, and another way to market himself, and another way to sell swag, and another way to make money. So the problem is, all these fighters are waiting around. They don't want to lose out on this big chance to make $4 million, even when they haven't done anything. So, of course, they're sort of hesitant to take big fights that maybe are going to blow this opportunity, which is a shame because, at 147, there's been a lot of this talk and not a lot of action going on because all of this is being held up. Whereas other weights, we wanted the same thing. We wanted people to fight, and now they're starting to fight. So at this point, we're hoping Floyd just fucks off so that we can have these young guys take over and make these fights that we've been waiting for like 2-3 years.
Let's move on and talk about a couple of the fights on the undercard I want to focus on. Let's just go here and talk about the robbery of the night. Rocky Martinez fighting a rematch against Orlando Salido. The fight was a draw, 115-113 for Martinez, 115-113 for Salido, 114-114 a draw. I will go to you on this one, Sean. We all were talking about this before the fight, and we all agree that, in our opinions, there's no way that that fight should have been a draw. We all saw it as Salido winning the fight clearly. I thought from the 4th round on, the fight was Salido's. He dominated the second half of the fight. A couple of times I felt he was going to put Martinez down, if not stop him, because of the body work. The thing about Salido, whenever you count him out, he resurrects himself, he rises himself up. And again, after that fight, the first fight, which Martinez beat him, and possibly the fight of the year, I know was Isha's fight of the year so far from 2015. Martinez, he started off quicker, very good performance on his part, pounded Rocky Martinez's body. Terrific performance as far as I was concerned. He just didn't get the decision he clearly deserved.
Oh my God! I mean, talk about Energizer Bunny. This guy came in with a plan. He came in with energy, and he did what he needed to do. He did what he planned to do. And the other guy came in with a plan, and it did not unfold the way he wanted it to, and he was not able to adjust, and he was not able to change things up. He threw far less punches. He landed far less punches. Like you mentioned, several times during this fight, that body work looked like he was just going to wilt. And luckily, he was saved by the bell, and he came out the next round. Props to him, re-energized and willing to take it. He was able to make it 12 rounds. But anybody under the illusion that Roman Martinez won this fight, I don't know what they've been drinking or smoking because, I mean, give me a break. Like, tell me what rounds he definitely won in that fight. Please tell me. I mean, it was an easy 8-4 for Salido. Easy. And the only drawback with this is, you know, I mean, if Salido won, they still would have pushed for a trilogy because what other options do these guys have at that weight? There's not many. So why wouldn't you sell this fight? You know, you could go to Mexico for the next fight, and it would sell out like 50, 60, 70,000 stadium for soccer, football, and it would be a great fight, and it would make money, and everybody would be happy. But now you have this draw. Martinez keeps his belt, and now you sort of fuck Salido over because Martinez was saying that he wants to fight at 135 now. So if they're going to have the rematch at 135, so the smaller guy who moved to 130 now has to move to 135 to try to get this victory that was robbed from him, that he clearly won in this fight. And, you know, it's a shame because, you know, he had a big opportunity in front of all the fans and it was just taken from him, and everybody could clearly see that. And he's older and, you know, getting near the end of his career, and to have this kind of thing happen, it's just, you know, I mean, this is what leaves a bad taste in people's mouth as far as boxing is concerned. The one guy who gave Rocky Martinez the win, he had it like clearly, like large towards him. It's like, oh my God, you think he dominated this fight, really, because he got his ass beat.
I mean, I just do not understand. I'll go to you on this one, Isha. I want to go to you because I know Salido is one of your favorite fighters, but this performance, this draw, I should say, kind of ruined your night. I'm going to give you the opportunity now, Isha, unmute your mic, please, to basically vent and get it out your chest. Get it out your chest.
Yeah, you're right. That did ruin my whole fucking night. I mean, the fact that Salido came in with a A+ game plan, stuck to it, and made it work against a young boy, and they still bent him over and fucked him in the ass over, man. How do you see this? How do you see Martinez winning? How? I don't understand. Where do you see this at? The kid was ready to go in the last of the 3 rounds. How do you have him winning that far on a fucking card? Tell me this. What boxing match? Fucking, oh my God. Ray Charles could have saw that Salido was fucking winning over that judge. You understand what I'm saying? There's no way a sane person can give him a full that he was winning the whole time on top of making it a draw. Are you fucking shitting me right now? And the look of disgust on Salido's face is what hurt me the most, is the fact that he knows what they were doing. They were setting this up from the start as a trilogy. I know what Sean just said, well, it doesn't matter who won the fight, that it was going to be a trilogy. Okay, let's say that that's the case. Well, if Salido wins, he gets a bigger say in what goes on in the fight this time. Does he not? Because he has the belt now. Does he not? He's considered, you know, the bigger side of this, right?
Yeah, he'd be the A side.
Yes,
So now he's not the A side. Now he's gonna have to fight at whatever weight Buddy's talking about. Now he's gonna have to meet their demands. It's no longer what he wants. You know what I'm saying? And he deserved it because he fucking won. And they took that from him. It's not, now he doesn't have a choice in this. Is that he's gonna have to go in there. He's gonna have to do this trilogy if it comes up, and he has to meet their demands, which is fucking bullshit because we all know that he won. We know he won. The fucking media know he won. The not the judges, those are fucking idiots, but the commentators knew he won, and even the ref knew he won. I was like, come on, what's going on here? But yeah, it really disgusted my whole evening. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I'm done.
I go to you, Gail. Aisha mentioned how, quite for lack of a better word, pissed off Salido was, and you was talking to us before the show. You was at the post-fight press conference, and yeah, Salido, he was on one. He was not happy, not one bit.
Absolutely not, and the media were with him. Salido was bitter, and he earned every bit of that bitter attitude. You know, when you looked at the punch stats, Salido threw over 1,000 punches, 1,037 to be exact. 691 for Martinez. So right there, let's do the math. Now, one of the few things Martinez bothered to say after the fight, and he said very, very little to the media. He said, well, a lot of the punches that Salido threw didn't land. Well, it looked like enough of them were landing to hurt him. He was wobbly more than once in the fight. He only survived and ended up on his feet at the end because he came to the end of rounds and he got that minute to recover, just enough to do another 3. Salido believed he won the fight. He said he is, if there's one knock about Salido, he's a notoriously slow starter, and he is. This time, he made a very determined effort not to start slow, and he didn't, and that's partially why the punch numbers were up so far.
Right. Even though Martinez had his moments early on, you could see that Salido was fighting at a faster pace than he was the first time.
So he said, I thought in the first couple of rounds they were even, but I took the fight afterwards, and I think he's absolutely right. He said, I was definitely looking for the championship. I threw more punches in this fight. I should have won the fight. I dedicated so much to this fight. For the judges to take it away, it isn't fair. And he is absolutely right. And that's why a lot of the media, including me, are very careful to quote him on that. The judges' scorecards, one of the judges had it 115 to 113 for Salido, 115 to 113 for Martinez, and Patricia Jarman had it as a draw. So, you know, first of all, I don't think a single one of those scorecards was accurate. Even the card that was scored in his favor was only 115 to 113. Truly, I don't know what fight those judges were watching. And the irony of the whole thing is, Salido felt that he lost the first fight in large part because he was fighting on Martinez's turf in Puerto Rico, and he didn't get a fair shot. He felt he'd get a much fairer shot in Las Vegas, and that didn't happen either. So that was the head-scratcher of the night. We all looked at each other, even the crowd, even the few people there in the crowd who were in the Martinez camp. They were pretty quiet because they were all breathing a big sigh of relief. They were sure he'd lost.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other fight I want to focus on quickly is very good fight between Baldu Jack and George Groves. Jack defending super middleweight title for the first time against Groves, who recently lost twice to Carl Froch. Going in, I felt this was a 50-50 fight. Others had Groves as the favorite, but to me, and I was talking about this on Wingy Boxing on his podcast over the weekend, he asked me what went wrong for Groves, and my response is, and I'll say it here, it wasn't what Groves did bad, it was what Baldu Jack did well. I thought that Jack put on the best performance of his career. I loved the way he used that jab up and down to the body. I love the consistency from Baldu Jack, the way he countered Groves' jab, the way he countered Groves' right hand. A complete performance, Sean, and I go to you first. Your thoughts on Jack's performance against George Groves? I was very impressed by what I saw.
Yeah, no, I thought he fought well. I mean, better than he's fought in other fights before that. And not to take anything away from Groves, I thought he fought well as well. I mean, if he wouldn't have got dropped early, I think he could have won the fight. I mean, it was a close fight as far as I was concerned. And I think it would be well worth doing again. Because now both guys can adjust a little more. You know, Jack said his biggest problem was he should have went to the body more, and he didn't go to the body as much as he was hoping to. So, you know, they can do it again, and he can try to right that wrong, and then Groves can be a little more active and a little more busy. You know, I mean, that loss to Froch, I think it took something out of Groves as far as confidence. because at lots of times in this fight, I think really why he lost is because he just at times didn't look confident, and when he was getting hit, he looked shaky, which sort of gives that image that you're not winning a fight, whereas the other guy was pretty stoic and just kept doing what he needed to do. And, you know, I mean, Groves was landing lots of good jabs, and he was doing a lot of good work. But I think a lot of it is just that, you know, that confidence that you exude when you're doing something. And
Let
I
me
don't
let me
doing.
excuse me for interrupting, but do you think you talk about this lack of confidence? Do you think that that has something to do with the fact that Adam Booth is no longer in the corner?
Possibly, but I mean, the reason he changed from Booth is because he felt that after a Frotch fight, he needed something different. That you know he was missing something. So sometimes you need to change. But I mean, maybe mentally he's not getting what he got before. But also, when you're an undefeated fighter, obviously your confidence is going to be sky high. And his biggest win was against the Gale, who we know is quality now at this point. So you know, we can understand why he was so confident. And just the way he talked prior to the Frotch fights, you know, blah, blah, blah. I mean, mind you, it's two English guys going at it, so there's that rivalry there, which he doesn't have against the American or a Swedish guy. But, you know, nonetheless, and I mean, Jack doesn't look like he's much of a talker anyway, so you probably wouldn't get too much back and forth. But you can see just being KO'd so devastatingly, I mean, I think took something out of him. But props to Jack. He's done what people say. You know, you win a championship, and you improve as a fighter. And I thought he improved from winning the title to this one. I thought he looked much better, a lot more confident, and a lot more sure of what he was doing. I mean, I think he did a lot of body work. I don't know how much body work he needs to do, but he might want to throw a little more combinations and be a little more active, and I think that would help him.
I'll go to you, Gail. Your thoughts on Jack's win over George Groves and what he talked about in terms of the future. He was asked in the post-fight press conference about Julio Cesar Chavez. He said he would love that bout. I personally think he would have his way with Chavez Jr. But he was also asked about a fight with James DeGale. He said he would welcome that fight as well. So thoughts on the fight as well as any potential bouts moving forward for Baldo Jack?
Really was Jack's best fight, and boy, he couldn't have picked a better time. It was a very successful title defense for, I agree, what seemed, at least on paper, to be a 50-50 fight. It was actually a majority decision, not a unanimous decision, though. It was 116-111 on one card, 115-112 on the other for Jack, but Groves got a 114-113 score. I think that one would be a little tough to see. That knockdown came right at the end of the first round. It was two snapping rights. The first one definitely hurt Groves, and Jack was smart to land it again, and Groves took a knee, which was a very smart thing for him to do. Jack couldn't close the deal, but it definitely took the steam out of Groves. He worked his way, was slightly working his way back into the fight. You could see him climbing that hill all the way, but Groves has been criticized before for losing steam in fights, and after about the 8th round, it seemed like it happened again. And Groves, as Sean said, failed to go to the body. That would have helped him enormously, and we could hear the fans, and there were many British fans there cheering Groves on, urging him to go to the body. I heard that around me, and why he didn't, I'm not sure. And Groves was very disappointed after the fight. He admitted, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board, and it really hurts to lose that way. And he said, I'm going to take some time to work out what's next, and he is going to have some thinking on his hands. On the other side of the coin, Jack's future is very interesting. He was asked, who would you like to fight next? Who's in your future? He said, first of all, he's going to take a little Jamaican vacation, so hope he has a good time. He mentioned Chavez Jr., which everybody who's a regular on this program knows how I feel about Chavez Jr., and a beatdown couldn't happen to a more deserving guy than Chavez Jr. I think Jack would have his way with him. He mentioned Lucien Boutte, which I think would be a dandy fight. Boutte just had a very nice comeback fight, and I think that would be an interesting matchup. He did also say he'd be very interested in fighting James DeGale. What I also liked about Jack, which I can't say I've ever been a big fan. I'm not been a big detractor either. I just haven't really, had a lot of enthusiasm for him either way. But at the news conference, after what was a clear win, he said, I have things to work on. I want to work on my head movement. I want to be better at everything. I want to learn something new every day. That's a great attitude from a fighter, and that flips the switch into the positive when I hear somebody saying, yeah, I won, yeah, I done a lot of great things, but I still have things to work on. And good for him. That's the kind of attitude that will take him a long way. It's a really good fight for him.
I'll go to you on this one, Isha. I know you have to leave in a little bit. So quickly, your thoughts on the fight between Badou Jack and George Groves?
I'll be the first to say that I picked Groves over Jack for different reasons than everyone else, but I was very, very impressed with Jack, and I did not think he was gonna come out and and show out like he did. I thought he was just gonna fold like he did in previous matches, but outside of that, as far as like who for him to fight next, I'd like to see him fight Chavez as well. I'm with Gail on this one.
So you want to see him catch a fade? You want to see Chavez catch a fade again?
Look, every time somebody in his weight division calls him out, I just get amped up because I enjoy seeing him get punched in the fucking face. That's just the bottom line. I don't care if he wins, if he loses. The fact that he repeatedly holds his head out to be punched in the face, it tickles the shit out of me. But let me go back to Jack real quick. Like Gail said, I dig the fact that how he doesn't seem like a dick. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, I won. I need to, I didn't do some things. I could have did some things better. Back to the drawing board. Yada yada yada. I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not a Jack fan, but he keeps doing stuff like this. I'm going to jump on that wagon real quick because I like those type of fighters, you know what I'm saying? The humble ones, I think because his name is associated with the TMT that I just automatically just have that throw it off feeling about him, like, oh, he's a dick, he's, flashy, showboated, another whole AB type of thing, you know what I'm saying? The company you keep is how you're perceived, is how I look at it. But other than that, yes. That was a great title defense. I was very, very impressed and proud of how he conducted himself as a fucking champion.
Okay, again, since we have to go, I'm going to kind of combine the news segment 2 in 1 here. When we was off last week, the night of last week's show, actually news broke that Timothy Bradley, he said on Instagram that he will now be trained by Teddy Atlas, so that news broke actually last week. And also tonight, news broke, I saw on Twitter, that Guillermo Rigondeaux has left his management and he's now a free agent. So I'm going to give you the time, Isha, to talk about those 2 news developments.
About the Rigondeaux thing, I read somewhere today on the Twitters or something that he would be in contacts with Heyman, Main Events, Duncan, and stuff like that. But like Sean was saying, is that I don't understand is that couldn't he have reached out to those people prior? Why did he have to wait until now to do that stuff? I don't understand. And
Bradley.
Oh yes, sorry, the Bradley Rios. That the thing. Oh well, the whole thing with him and Teddy Atlas. I don't know how that's gonna go. I don't know if Teddy's a good fit for him. I mean, because like we all know how Bradley is. Bradley's Bradley. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. He's gonna fight the way he's gonna fight, regardless. I don't understand what this change is gonna do for him late in his career like this. Is what I don't understand.
My question is, and I'll go to Sean and Gail on this. Was this his decision? You know, because if you hear behind the scenes that it wasn't totally his decision, his wife had more to do with the fact that he left Joel Diaz. Is it fully his decision 100% now? And I'll just leave it out there, and anybody can respond.
Well, might not have been fully his decision to leave Joel Diaz, but it's certainly fully his decision to sign on with Teddy. You know, I mean, you know, fighters leave trainers for a lot of reasons. Fighters leave trainers just because they need a fresh point of view. You know, they get in a rut, and fair enough. But you do see this combo and think, what? Now, Bradley was joking around saying, oh, yeah, it's a perfect fit. You know, Teddy and I are a perfect fit because we're both batshit crazy. That's true. I mean, that actually is true. There's some sort of method to the madness if they just want a sort of a crazy balls-to-the-wall relationship. Great. If there's more behind the scenes about Joel Diaz and Bradley's wife, I am trying to think of her name, who is his manager, by the way, who's been a very strong hand in managing his career. If they were having a clash, you know, the woman you're sleeping with generally wins, especially if she's controlling the bank account and your money. And she has been a good manager for him. You know, Tim's made a lot of money. He's maximized his opportunities. And she has said very openly, she only wants him to fight a few more times. She has some number in her head that they want to have in the bank, you know, and then get him out of there and live off it. So she has some kind of monetary goal in mind, and she wants to get there. You know, more power to him.
I mentioned whether it's his decision. The other question for me is, Sean, Gail just mentioned that both Bradley and Atlas are kind of batshit crazy. The other thing that they both have in common is that they're both emotional. The question for me, when I look at Bradley, the issue has been his lack of discipline throughout a fight. He boxes in long spurts, but then his ego gets in the way, and he wants to brawl when he should not brawl, when he should box instead. Do you see Atlas, who's an emotional guy, as I mentioned, being able to instill the discipline in Bradley in order for Bradley to perform at his best throughout a fight?
Well, I mean, I think he's definitely going to be heard. You know, in the corner, he's not going to be passive. He's going to be Bradley's face, and I think in training camp, he's going to be heard as well. You know, pushing Dad out of the way and taking over. And I think his personality means either you listen to me or fuck off. You can go get another trainer. And we know that's totally the way he is. So, I mean, if Bradley is there, we will see how their chemistry works. I mean, I think Bradley will work well with it because he's used to being dominated. I mean, his whole life under his father, if you followed any of the things about his history, his father was always like a drill sergeant in his face, pushing him to do stuff. And that was really his motivation. With his ex-trainer, I mean, I think he's a much more passive guy who sort of takes more of a step back. I mean, not so dominant. And then with Dad there as well, you're getting mixed messages from one person to another. I don't think Teddy's going to let that happen. He's going to, like, lay down the law, and he's going to, like, say it's my way or the highway, fuck off. And in the corner, if he's doing what he doesn't like, he's going to be screaming in his face, slapping him, and telling him what's going on, and it could work, or it couldn't. But at this point, I mean, like you said, was this really his decision? I sort of get a lot of feeling that because of his performances lately and how he has been getting hit too much, and he seems like he's slurring a little bit, and he doesn't seem as healthy as he was before. Now he's been getting hit and hurt by punches, whereas before he seemed a lot more durable. I think a lot of this might also be because his trainer was sort of trying to talk him into stepping aside, taking easier fights, and then basically move away from boxing. And maybe his wife still has goals and financial goals and said, well, we don't need his negativity, so let's move somewhere else and be redirected in our career. because he's not that old, and he's still at the top of the 147 division. So there's still big potential fights for him. It's a shame that the fight that just happened, his name wasn't there instead of Berto. That would have been sort of the perfect ending to his career, and it would have been fitting for both guys because, I mean, having those names on each other's resume, you know, it would have been solid for Floyd to have probably the third best guy at that division over the last, 5-6 years. And it would have been great for Bradley, who's fought the other two great fighters in Marquez and Pacquiao. So, it would have been great. But unfortunately, that's not the way boxing goes sometimes, and he's going to get in there with Rios, who's going to, like, shake him up some more, and we'll see. Like, technically wise, he should win that fight easily. But if he doesn't follow Atlas's advice, it's going to be a war, and maybe then he'll be looking for a new trainer after that fight.
Two more fights that I omitted by accident that I think we should touch on. It also happened this weekend. PBC card and Mashantucket on, I think it was NBC. Yeah, NBC, PBC on NBC card. Possibly the performance of the weekends of Jermall Charlo destroyed K9 Bundrage, and a complete farce in the main event of that card. Peter Quillin versus Michael Zerafa. Quillin scoring a 5-round KO, but there was some mitigating circumstances that was just left that bout left a sour taste in your mouth. I go to you on this one again, Isha, quickly. I know the Charlo bout with K9 that had you doing a couple of woos on Twitter. Talk about that bout as well as talk about the Quillin Zerafa bout, which was just like I said before, a farce. Just ridiculous the way. Let me give a quick backstory. Quillin, he came in weighing 160, right? But he jumped all the way up to 182 by the time he entered the ring. As soon as he stepped up, he just did what he had to do to knock him out. Zerafa went to the hospital afterwards, but again, he shouldn't have been in there, and Quillin shouldn't have been able to put on so much weight. But that's what made it so ridiculous, in my opinion. But again, talk about the Charlo destruction of K9 as well as that Quillin bout.
It's like I can't really be mad at Quillin, although I'm not a Quillin fan. I really can't be mad at him. He's fighting who his trainers or whoever his team is putting in front of him. Now, who I can't be mad at is the people who sanction the bout and his team for picking that type of a fighter for, Quillin, who's supposed to be, this top-notch fighter. He shouldn't be fighting that type of an opponent. Now, that's what I can be mad at. But as far as, like, being mad at Quillin about it, I mean, I can't really give him shit. He's just doing what he's supposed to do, and that's fucking fight. Now, that right there could have gone very, very, very bad. The kid, the guy who he fought, Zafara, or however you pronounce his name, my apologies, he could have been very, very hurt in that fight. Like you said, Quillin jumped up to fucking 180. What the fuck? Did he eat a whole cow before he came in to fight? Holy crap. But things like that, I mean, you're supposed to keep a fighter's safety in perspective as well when you're doing these fights, and old buddy's safety was not the topic of the night at all in that situation.
He didn't eat a cow. He just learned from Chavez Jr.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's not. You can't even really talk about the fight itself because I mean, the type of a fight it was. I can't even congratulate him really on, hey, you did an excellent job against Pony Stripper Boy. The fuck?
Pony Stripper Boy.
I mean, I can't give you props over that type of a win, but I mean, hey, congratulations for following your team. But now on to Jermall Charlo. That boy did his motherfucking thing. He went in there and he did exactly what he said he was gonna do. I'm done talking. I'm gonna let my fist do the work. He went in there and I don't know what K9's plan was, but Charlo had a different outlook for it. He went in there, he stuck to his jab, he worked off the jab well. When he did some great moving. it's just like whatever he did, K9 had no answer for it. It's like he was, what's the word I'm looking for here? He was clueless to what the hell was going on. It's like, are you here to fight tonight, or I mean, what's going on here? But the way Charlo went out there and did, you know, how he got that win was exactly what everybody wanted to see. Now, you have people talking about, oh, K9's the ring rust, he's old, blah, blah, blah. We can't always chop it up to the fighter being old. If you're sitting at home with a fucking belt, Mr. Senior Citizen, you need to prepare to get your ass beat for that belt. Nobody wants to hear, oh, he's old, he's this, he's that. I mean, he signed a contract that you can't always use that as an excuse. Give the young boy his props. He went in there, he did what he was supposed to do. Give him that. Don't throw excuses on top of his win. Congratulate the boy, give him his praise, and move the hell on.
I'll go to you, Gail. Your thoughts on both of these bouts, the Charlo destruction of K9, which, and the surprising thing for me was I knew Charlo's had power, the Jermall Charlo, but he basically hurt K9 with every hard punch he threw, every hard punch he landed, I should say. And K9 had no answers. And again, that Quillin's bout against Zerafa, which again, that reminded me of Arturo Gatti in the way he beat Joey Gamache, outweighing him by so much, and Gamache ended up in the hospital as well. It reminded me just of that bout, all these years later.
Yeah, it did, and we've had a lot of bouts like that since. I'm trying to think of the Chavez Jr. beatdown. Broner had a fight like that where he came in way overweight and rehydrated. And the problem is the guy on the B side, you know, needs the money, needs the fight, you know, gets blackmailed into doing it. Basically, they don't back down, and you know, it goes way beyond just losing. This is dangerous. This is dangerous for this unequipped, smaller guy in the ring. And you take a look on the face of Quillin when he realized what he'd done. Let's hope he and his whole camp think long and hard about doing anything like this ever again. And shame on Premier Boxing, and shame on Al Heyman, and everybody who put that guy, Zerafa, in that position. They should never, ever have done it. Now, I realize that it is my Don Quixote mission, tilting at this windmill, to go back to day of weigh-ins. It's never going to happen. They're too much of an event. Fans, I get that. If we can't go to day of weigh-ins, we need rehydration clauses in every single contract. They do exist in many, but they need to be a fixed item. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can't rehydrate over a certain amount for the day of the fight, and you get weighed in. You can't avoid the scale the day of the fight. You get weighed in to make sure that you hit your rehydration max. And that would, let's hope, keep some of these things from happening in the future. You know, Zerafa could really, really have been seriously injured. They're very lucky that he wasn't. You know, Quillin, you know, I hope he really does remember how that felt. He didn't get to celebrate winning. There was nothing to celebrate. It was ridiculous. End of that discussion. As to Charlo, I did not expect that. It was a great outcome for him against somebody that we didn't all think would take that kind of punishment. What that speaks to is Charlo really developing not just his strength, but you don't hurt somebody like Bundrage just with sheer strength if you don't have excellent accuracy as well. He picked his shots and he landed perfectly. All of it came into place. Very good outing for him, and he needs now to see who he can step up against. Well, let's see what can happen. You know, it's really, really tough having both of these twins confused in the fans' minds, but in this case, he's going to have a little bit of a breakout moment, I think.
I wouldn't mind seeing him against Austin Trout.
Yeah, wouldn't mind that a bit. Austin's sort of rising back up, and Austin seems to be willing to take on anybody. So yeah, it'd be a good fight for him.
Your thoughts on these two bouts, Sean?
This goes back to what many people have been saying for the last 6 months, and dates back for the last 3 years about many of Al Heyman's cards and a lot of the fights that he makes that are really one-sided, and they're not well developed. The matchmaking is not good. You know, it's a lot of look-good fights to sell his fighter, especially now with the PBC, where he's trying to like sell a brand, build fighters, and build his fighters. So he's putting them in with a lot of easy touches to make his fighters look good. In most cases, it hasn't really worked out that well, but in a few cases, it has. And in this case, it's just a disgusting example of why you don't put guys in with fights like this. We were talking before about, yeah, guys need stay busy fights, but stay busy fights mean fighting guys who obviously are not at your level, but who are professionals, the same size as you, and have fought high-level competition before and are prepared for what's going to be in front of them. Not like these unknown guys from Australia who have never fought anybody, hasn't fought anybody in the top 50 at that weight, and then he steps in and throws in with this guy who ends up being like, well, big for the fight. Look at his body. I mean, he totally looked loaded. He did not look like a 160 fighter at all. And I can't even imagine how him and Jacobs are going to fight at 160. Because, you know, Jacobs is a 160 fighter. Quillin is a 168 fighter, and maybe he should move up and fight Ward, who's looking for a fighter right now to get in the ring with him. But, yeah, I mean, you know, this is just another disgusting display. And you could see what possibly could have happened. An Australian fighter just died this weekend in a fight that they had. And maybe this is all talking about Australia's boxing federation and how they're doing a bad job, because this is two Australian fighters, one who died and one who was put in a position where he very well could have died as well. And, you know, like we said, people need stay busy fights, and I'm not opposed to them. I think it's good. And, I mean, build guys' brands, you make them look good, you sell them. But with the PBC, this has been the norm. And then when they have a great card, like Amara Santa Cruz, and they act like, oh, wow, look, great fights from BBC. Oh, my God. Like, fuck, the clock is right. A clock that is broken is right twice a day. So you're going to have some good fights. It's bound, especially when you put out 500 fights in a 6-month period. You're going to have some good fights. But generally, and this isn't ripping it, I don't think we need so many fights from PBC, because I think it's too much. And I think the matchmaking could be a little better. That's all. You know, I'm not against PBC because I like boxing, so I'm not opposed to watching fights. But we're getting maybe too many. You know, the market's getting flooded a little bit, and the quality is being lessened because of that. You know, and this is another example of how Heyman protecting his fighters. You know, Stevenson, Santa Cruz, Wilder, Quillin. These guys have been protected huge. You know, huge. Giving up belts so they don't fight people. You know, it's not good for boxing to do that. I mean, finally Santa Cruz has been put in with a good fighter. And what happened? Boom. It was excellent. And it's reinvented him. Danny Garcia, another guy who's been protected. You know, as boxing fans, all we want to do is see good fights, competitive fights, and fair fights. That's all. And with the PBC, we can see that a little bit of the spin is going towards the PBC fighter. I mean, Rocky Martinez. You know, what else do you need to say?
Since there's so many fights, there were so many fights that we kind of pressed for time. I'm going to kind of split fights between everybody else. Okay, I think Aisha, she has to cut out. So thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you next time. That's okay. That's okay. She's sending me a message probably. She has to dip out for us. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Again, I'll split it between you, Gail, and Sean. Split some fights here that happened this weekend. Split the card between the card in Toronto that featured Adonis Stevenson. I'll go to you on this one, Sean. Adonis Stevenson defeating Karpinski by TKO 3 easy win, as well as Errol Spence on the undercard of that bout, scoring an 8th-round TKO over a fighter by the name of Van Erden. I'll go to you on this one, Sean. Your thoughts on those bouts?
Well, Stevenson's just like I just alluded to. I mean, a protected fighter who was fighting a guy who none of us were excited to see him in there with. But he needs to stay busy, so that's fine. Karpinski had a big win against a guy who's sort of a team fighter in Dawson, so you could justify him fighting him. But it happened the same way everyone expected it would. You know, an early knockout from a guy that has no power and wasn't able to keep Stevenson off of him. You know, it's good Stevenson staying active. Hopefully we can see him step up with one of the bigger fighters, him and Berto. They're both Heyman fighters, and they can fight each other. So, or this Cuban guy who got ripped off by Pascal. You know, it's time for him to step up and fight actually somebody who's legitimate, as opposed to just like a warm body. As far as Spence, I mean, I'm not surprised by the decision. I'm glad that he finally stepped up his limit and fought a guy who's actually not a bad fighter. I mean, a little slick and, you know, has some skills. I mean, you know, Spence shows that he's a better fighter and he's done what we expect him to do. It doesn't mean he's top 10 at 147. But, I mean, it's good that he finally stepped up, you know, to a reasonable level. And, I mean, all this talk about him fighting Thurman. You know, steady on, steady on. I mean, he finally fought somebody who is ranked, and now his next fight can be somebody who's like top 15. And then at that point, boom, then he's right up there, and he's a contender, and everything is fair game. You know, a good fight for him, and I don't know if people are willing to sacrifice one for the other, but a guy who just fought on Tuesday, Sammy Vasquez. You know, I mean, Sammy Vasquez looked good. You know, he went in there and looked great in there, and I mean, he's got power, he's pretty slick. You know, he's a good fighter. I mean, I would expect Spence to beat him, but I mean, it's a step-up fight, you know, and it would be an entertaining fight nonetheless. But, yeah, it's good that Spence is fighting somebody, and it's good that he actually fought somebody who had some skill, only one loss on his record. I mean, still, he's a little too loose, and his defense wasn't very good, and he didn't look like he had too much power to keep Spence off of him. But at least it was competitive for as long as it lasted.
And I'll go to you. Well, I agree with you. A very good win by Spence. The Stevenson card, it was what it was. It was a stay busy fight against a guy who had no hope of beating him. And hopefully this win will lead to a Stevenson bout, a Berto BF bout, a rematch with Funfara. A big fight for Stevenson coming up in the early part of 2016. That's really what we want to see and what needs to happen. Spence, solid win. Guy who was in the top 10. You might not have thought he was a top 10 guy, but he was ranked in the top 10. He had his way with him, dominated him, showed, I think, how good he is and what his potential is. And hopefully another bout towards the beginning of 2016. And after that, maybe a title shot against a Thurman or maybe a big bout against a Porter or someone like that. I wouldn't be against that. I'll go to you on this one, Gail. Doubleheader, heavyweight doubleheader in London. Anthony Joshua destroying Gary Cornish in 1 round. Dillian Whyte finishing off Brian Minto in 2 rounds. With both of those guys winning, that sets up, a showdown between Joshua and Whyte in December. I think December 12th is the date at the O2 Arena. Thoughts on the wins in the upcoming showdown between Joshua and Whyte, who, and I'll say this, I know a lot of people think that Joshua is just going to go in there and blow Dillian Whyte over. But, you know, I think personally that Dillian Whyte can give him a decent fight. You know, it would be interesting what would happen if Whyte, who has legit power, what would happen if should Whyte land on the chin of Joshua. Excuse me.
Both really good wins for both of these fighters. Interestingly enough, we were even watching from the media center in Las Vegas, very interested at the outcome early in the afternoon here in the West. It was interesting to listen to both of them do their post-fight interviews. You know, they know they're on a collision course. Right now, there's not a lot of trash talking going on. They're being very respectful. I agree with you. I think it would be very unwise for Joshua. He's clearly the A side of that matchup, but he is not taking it easy. He's just not gonna. I see Sean wanting to weigh in there. Come on, jump in. I do think he will win. I agree with you though, Michael. I don't think he better not take White lightly. He better not. I was very impressed with his post-fight remarks and very quietly confident about what he could do. It's a shame these guys aren't better known in the United States, where people love heavyweight boxers, love them. And I was surprised even in the media center how few people, they kind of had those question marks floating around above their heads. Joshua, some of them sort of knew. Dillian Whyte, very few knew who he was. Now I happen to have Gareth Davis sitting in front of me from The Guardian, who was all about it, but that was about it. So I hope they'll get, maybe a little more play in the United States for this fight. That 0-2 will be rocking. That's a great fight to end the year in Great Britain. Good for them. And that's the kind of matchups I'd like to see here in the United States more often. Yes, thank you very much. Hand it to our partners across the pond. Guys match up there, with the exception of Kell Brook and Amir Khan, which is, I think, why the British public is so damn irritated at them.
As well as Quigg and Frampton.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're used to seeing guys say, yeah, I'm all about it, and they go for it. Good for them. It's going to be a good fight.
I know. I see you want to come in. You break in, Sean. What you got to say?
Oh, I mean, after watching this fight, it just became clear to me that Joshua would handle Whyte. Obviously Whyte he has longer arms, so it might take a few rounds for him to time him. And he's obviously a strong and hits hard fighter. But he's wide open for that straight right hand that finished off Cornish. Wide open. He was getting touched by Minto with that punch. He's going to get finished within 3 rounds, man, if he doesn't improve his defense before stepping into Joshua. Because Joshua is going to just hit him with one straight right, and the whole face of the game is going to change.
Well, if Whyte can use his reach and learn to stay out of the way, box a little more, he has a fighter's chance.
I agree.
I think he'll make it interesting. I do.
He doesn't have that much time to learn how to do that.
Well, that's true. That's true. Maybe you better get Teddy Atlas on the phone. I don't know.
Heavyweights.
Nah.
Yes.
Both Atlas and Whyte are combustible characters. Both of them are hotheads. They would be at each other's throats during a camp with that. Nah.
Guns would be cool.
Sometimes people who are combative with each other, who feel they can say anything right to someone's face, once in a while that recipe works. If you've ever worked for anybody, a boss, a client, somebody who you can be very forthright, to the point of being rude to, very blunt, sometimes those relationships work out great because nobody holds back. It'll be an interesting combo. We're all thinking about Atlas and Bradley, and that's what Bradley has said about Atlas. He speaks to him very forthrightly, and that's what he wanted.
Indeed. Again, so it'll be interesting. December 12th, O2 Arena in London. Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte. Let's move on and start to close the show out. Not much happening this weekend, so I want to talk about a fight that's happening on the 22nd. I'll go to you on this one, Sean, since we're both fans of smaller fighters, the little guys, if you will. Shizuki Namanaka, WBC bantamweight champion, will be fighting arguably the toughest opponent of his career on paper as he will defend the belt against Anselmo Moreno in Tokyo for Yamanaka's belt. I wish this fight would have happened, say, a year and a half ago when both of them had titles. It would mean a lot more and a lot more money for both guys. But talk about this bout, Yamanaka, who's on the roll. I think he's now in the Ring Magazine pound for pound top 10 ratings against a Moreno, who lost to Payano, but I think that was due to the style. Styles make fights. But Moreno's a tough guy to hit, a tricky character. Yamanaka's the favorite coming in, but the style alone of Moreno, he could give Yamanaka some problems.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, Moreno is a tough fighter. I mean, he's a great boxer. He moves a lot behind his jab and moves and moves and moves and moves. So people who don't like runners won't like him because he epitomizes that running style. I mean, behind a jab, it's licking the whole time, but he's just like circles. You get dizzy trying to follow him around. But he's had problems with really in-your-face physical guys. Like he just lost to Payano, who's a little raw, but also just beat that American guy who's pretty slick as well. So his style obviously works. But he's really tough and all over guys, and the same as when Mares beat him as well. That's how Mares beat him. He sort of roughed him up and got inside. The same thing that he tried to do with Santa Cruz. But mind you, doing it with Alessandro Moreno, who's a 118 fighter, and doing it with Santa Cruz, who's fighting at 126, it was a little different. But, you know, he has a problem with that kind of fighter. But Yamanaka is not that kind of fighter. He's more of a in-between distance fighter who is mostly left-hand dominant, but big power with that straight left, you know, like Manny Pacquiao and Stevenson. You know, when he hits you with it, I mean, it changes the tune of a fight. He's not super active, but he's a skilled fighter, and he's usually the more offensive and aggressive fighter. So in this fight, his biggest thing is how is he going to be able to sort of cut off the ring and get his punches off against Alessandro Moreno, who's coming off a loss, and you know he wants to bounce back impressively and win that title. So it's an interesting fight based on styles, and it'll tell us a lot about Yamanaka and what level he's truly at. If he can get in there and stop Moreno, who is a tough guy and doesn't get stopped, and if he's able to cut off the ring and force Moreno to fight his fight, which would answer many questions that we had towards him. And you know, if he was able to sort of catch that boxer and do what he wanted to do, and then you know, it's a good fight because it'll also push him more towards the North American fans' identity, and you know, that's a good potential fight that we've been talking about for a while as a possible Rigo opponent, because he could easily move up to 122, and him being the dominant fighter at 118, moving up to fight Rigo, who's sitting around twiddling his thumbs, I mean, it would be a good stylistic fight as well. And he's a taller fighter, so I mean, even if he moved up, he'd still be taller than Rigo. I don't think he would have the longer reach, but I mean, as far as height-wise, he would be taller.
I'll go to you on this one, Gail. If you've seen Yamanaka, your impressions of him, as well as your thoughts on this fight with Alessandro Moreno next week.
You know, it is really tough for these smaller Asian fighters to break into a pound-for-pound list. They have to be so good, so much better, because you're just simply not in front of the guys that make those decisions. He broke into the top 10 in May, and he's now sitting at number 9. Number 9 on the Worldwide Ring Magazine, you know, pound-for-pound list. That, you know, for a Japanese bantamweight is an incredible achievement. You've got to be, you know, so much better than, you know, the equivalent American fighter in a bigger weight class to get there. He isn't super active. He's 32 years old, but he's only had 25 professional fights. You know, sometimes that works to a guy's advantage. They're not shop-worn. You know, that can be a problem with some of these guys. This is a good fight to fight against somebody, you know, from North America, Central America, the Americas. To be exact, although it is a fight happening on his home turf. And you know, whether that will get the attention of the Spanish-speaking fans and hopefully propel him toward a fight with one of those guys, you know, we'll see. You know, the truth is, I'm not sure he, for his own career, needs it, but we'll see what happens there, and it'll depend a lot on how dominant he is in this fight. I think he will. I think he will win with ease. Now, he might get a decision versus a stoppage. He's been about 50-50 his last handful of fights with stoppages versus decisions. He doesn't seem to be too concerned about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to close down the show on that note. I'm going to go around here. Gail Falkenthal of Communities Digital News. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else with you, let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me primarily through my column, which is Ringside Seat in Communities Digital News, and the web address is com with 2 M's, comdigi, D-I-G-I News, comdiginews.com. You find me on Twitter, you find me on Facebook, you find me on the Pound for Pound Report, you find me trolling people when they bring up Chavez Jr., or getting to it with guys that come in overweight, which just drives me crazy. I love to talk boxing. It's going to be a busy fall boxing season. Kind of enjoy the break while you can, because your weekends are going to be taken up for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Join us live from Taiwan, Sean Newton. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you and talk about the series you've been doing.
I'm on the YTBC, commenting on videos. I try to stay abreast to all the channels that don't bore the hell out of me. Even if I don't agree with you, but you're entertaining, I watch it, which maybe makes me a troll, but I just think it gives me an opportunity to see different perspectives on the game. I don't have to agree with you, but we can still talk boxing. That's why we're here. And Gmail as well. But yeah, I've been making quite a few videos, so if you have time, you can give me a listen, see if it's something you want to listen to, and subscribe. If not, no worries.
Highly recommended.
And I'll get the information for Taisha Lacey, who joined us earlier. If you want to check her out, talk boxing or anything else, just go to her Twitter handle, KIZZLE25, that's KAYEZEL25. Just check her out there where she talks boxing or anything else. Again, KIZZLE25 if you want to talk boxing or anything else with her. If you want to talk boxing or anything else with me, you know where it is, Brother JR76 on Twitter. If you want to find anything else about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, go to the blog page, P4P.BoxingReport.wordpress.com, where you can find articles and whatnot, and videos and whatnot. But you can also look to the right of the page. You can find links to where to find us all over social media, all over the interwebs, the 2G Plus pages, with the Facebook page, the Podomatic page, where you can find all previous episodes of the podcast, the Tumblr page, the Twitter handle, YouTube, the Pinterest board, link to where you can donate your account, that RSS feed. You can link to find us on the Flipboard. Email address, P4PBoxingRPT@gmail.com. Lastly, link to where you can donate your account. DonateYourAccount.com/P4P Boxing Report. Be a friend, be a pal, be a buddy. Donate your Twitter handle to the Pound for Pound. Donate your Twitter account, I should say. Excuse me. And what happens is in the Twitter message that comes from the P4P Boxing Report Twitter handle, your Twitter account will automatically retweet any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page. On the next episode, we may take a week off. I'm not sure. We'll probably be, F it. We'll be back next week. It's not going to be much to talk about. We'll talk about Yamanaka's bout with Moreno. We'll also talk about junior middleweight Julian Williams, who's going to be fighting on that same day. And we will do a preview of the suspect heavyweight title bout as far as I'm concerned, between Deontay Wilder and Johan DeHopis. Dominique Brazil is going to be fighting on that undercard, so we will talk about all of those bouts. For Gail Falkenthal of Communities Digital News, Sean Newton, I'm your host, Michael. We'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody.